Hi, my name is Marusi Price, and I'm an English teacher and mindfulness life coach. In my lessons, I use different ways in order to bring my students into the present. I use breathing techniques, visualizations, creative reading, and writing activities. While preparing for my interactive toolkit, A Very Mindful Christmas, I dipped into literature in order to find out more about the true meaning of Christmas. And the reason for that is because when I was growing up in communist Bulgaria, we didn't used to celebrate Christmas. That's why I wanted to find out more about the Christmas magic, Christmas wonder in some of the most famous Christmas books. One of the books that I read last week is Letters from Father Christmas by the amazing J.R.R. Tolkien. And I have to admit that I've never read any of the great writers' books because I don't like fantasy, but I fell in love with that book and I may change my mind now. What I love about this book is the writer's imagination and how he depicts the North Pole and Santa's place, using elves and goblins and involving polar bear as well, and depicting, their adventures together. If you do not know about the book, it's a compilation of the letters that the writer sent to his children when they were little. The first letter dates back from 1920, and the last letter was written in 1943. So what is quite interesting is that we also follow the events around the world, especially the Second World War, while reading the book as well. So some of the letters are quite short, but others are really, really amazing and detailed. And I would love to read a couple of them to you. The first one, as I mentioned, is really short, by the way. It was written in 1920. It comes from Christmas House, North Pole, the 22nd of December, 1920. And it starts with, Dear John, that's the writer's oldest son, I heard you ask Daddy what I was like and where I lived. I have drawn me and my house for you. Take care of the picture. I'm just off now for Oxford with my bundle of toys. Some for you. Hope I shall arrive in time. The snow is very thick at the North Pole tonight. Your loving Father Christmas. And what is really interesting is that they've also included the original letters and the illustrations, the pictures that the writer drew back then. It's just amazing. Let me find a picture to show you. Here it is. Here's one of them. Isn't that beautiful? He also thought of problems that could occur, obviously with mischievous polar bear and all the goblins there. So I'm going to read a paragraph which describes a problem. It comes from the letter from 1929. So that's what Tolkien wrote, or Santa, I should say. But I'm rather worried this year. In my office and packing room, the polar bear reads out names while I copy them down. We had awful gales here, worse than you did, tearing clouds of snow to a million tatters, screaming like demons, burying my house almost up to the roofs. Just at the worst, the polar bear said it was stuffy and opened a north window before I could stop him. You can guess the result. The North Polar Bear was buried in papers and lists, but that did not stop him laughing. I bet Santa wasn't laughing. One of the poems is written in the form of one of the letters is written in the form of a poem, which what is quite interesting is that at the beginning the verses do not rhyme, so obviously Santa tries to perfect his rhyming skills, and then there was at the very end, he actually perfects it. And there is a part which is called Christmas Day, and I would like to read this one to you as well. So he wrote, "Now Christmas Day has come around again, and Paul North Polar Bear has got a bad pain. They say he swallowed a couple of pounds of nuts without cracking the shells. It sounds a polarish sort of thing to do, but that isn't all. Between me and you, he's eaten a ton of various goods and recklessly mixed all his favorite foods, honey with ham and turkey with treacle and pickles with milk. I think that a week'll be needed to put the old bear on his feet, and I mustn't forget his favorite treat, plum pudding with sausages and Turkish delight, covered with cream and devoured at a bite. And after this dish, he stood on his head. It's rather a wonder the poor fellow's not dead." Can you imagine Polar Bear devouring all those treats, pickles with milk and turkey with treacle? So, usually at that time of the year, I ask my young learners to write their letter to Santa, but not this year, because this year they will be writing a letter from Santa to themselves, to their sibling, a classmate, a friend. And because I intend to use this activity with some of my older students, they can even write a letter to their younger self. So don't worry if you do not have the book. Obviously, I will read some of the letters to my students, but you can encourage your students to imagine what life is like at the North Pole or wherever they think Santa lives. And yes, write a letter from Santa to one of the aforementioned, scenarios, and then maybe they can think of how they can use a mischievous elf. Maybe there was a problem at the North Pole and Santa's sleigh broke down. Maybe they can think how they can use the current situation, current crisis, and maybe the global warming, and how this has affected the North Pole and Santa's life as well. Who lives with Santa? What are sounds and sights and smells and, sights that at the North Pole? I think it would be amazing to challenge our students to think about Santa and try to depict his life with a very, very sensory description. This morning, I did this exercise with one of my students. She's 14 years old, and she wrote a letter from Santa to her younger self. So this is what she came up with. "Dear little Sissy, Christmas is drawing near, and I've already set off from the North Pole with a big bag of presents. I know you Chinese don't celebrate Christmas, but I still got presents for good kids in China. I will go to China as soon as I have finished my job in England. Remember to hang up your stockings? I'm very busy these days with all those listing and wrapping, not to mention that my best friend Rudolph got a serious disease. He's sleepy all day long and isn't eating much. Worst of all, his nose is not so red and bright as it was before. How terrible! I think it's because of the climate change in the North Pole, as many other reindeers seem to be sick too. I can't imagine what Christmas would be like without Rudolph. Could you help me find a solution? Love you, Santa." I love this letter. And actually, after reading it, we commented on the fact that she could have written that Rudolph got COVID-19, quite relevant nowadays. So anyway, if you decide to use my idea, please let me know in the comments below. Or if you have any other creative ways that you use during the festive period, of course, I would love to hear from you as well. So meanwhile, have a beautiful festive period. So see you soon. Bye.